What's up, everyone? What's happening? Love my intros. I should make an album. Guess what? I do have an album. You can go buy it. Boom! Right on my website right now. Go to rickbeato.com. $10. $10 off on my Beato book right now, too. Only for the next, till midnight tonight. The code is RB789. Easy to remember. $10 off for those of you that are watching here. Peter Smart. How are you, Peter? Good to hear from you. We need to catch up. I'm around tomorrow. Everybody, this is my friend. You want to introduce yourself, Daryl?
Daryl Gable. Hey, guys.
So let me tell you about Daryl. So Daryl and I have been friends for almost a couple years or so, and we met in person for the first time, even though I talk to Daryl all the time. Daryl, when did we actually meet, Daryl? When was that about?
January, late January, I think.
Late January 2017, yeah. And Daryl, how many of you know Daryl? You should know Daryl. Daryl is an amazing guitar player. And Daryl has been incredibly, not Gerald Renzo, Daryl. Daryl has been very, very helpful to me and to everyone. There you go. Not Gerald, Daryl. Well, you've heard of him now. You're all spelling his name right. Oh, brother. You're all spelling his name wrong, I mean. So somebody knows Daryl here. So Daryl has his own YouTube channel. It's under your name, right?
Yep.
And I'll put it in the description after. But you should definitely subscribe to Daryl's channel for sure. Daryl he has been on YouTube for a long time. I'm trying to get him to make more videos, but he has. Daryl is an amazing guitar player, and I'm reading the comments as they're going. Not from The Walking Dead, not that Daryl, but he's as cool as that Daryl. Does he gent? He definitely gents. So anytime I have any question on anything, I call Daryl. Like if I'm
except on music.
Except on music. No, that's not true. No.
I'm calling Rick about music theory.
Daryl has. Daryl taught me about Guitar Pro. He taught me any of my chord grids, anything I use in my videos. I always call Daryl and I say, Daryl, how do I do this? Or Daryl says, I'll show you how to do this. He's amazing. So you guys should all subscribe to his channel and sign up to his mailing list. You have a mailing list too on your website, right?
Yeah, actually, tell them about my free course on my website.
Daryl has a free course on his website. What's up, Larry? Daryl, you tell them about your free course.
Yeah, just go to darylgable.com. It's spelled DERRYLGABEL, darylgable.com. And when you go to my website, you'll see my free course up there. It's called Pentatonic Transformation.
So your name is Daryl too, but your name is Daryl with an A, not with an E. Okay, so Anthony knows you, except you didn't spell that Kessel guitar. You want to talk about your guitar that you have?
Yeah, the Kiesel.
Kiesel, that's how you say it?
Yeah, it's Kiesel. They're the best, man.
I played Daryl's guitar for the first time today. I don't play a lot of guitars. Okay, somebody's already a subscriber to your channel, Daryl. Cool. There we go.
All right.
So you talk about your guitar a little bit. This is a really great, incredibly good playing guitar here. Let me do this.
Yeah, this is the Kiesel. You know, Kiesel used to be under Carbon, but they recently changed their name back to the original name. But this guitar is just amazing. Wow, where do I start? I mean, if you're wondering about the wood combinations I got here, you got flame maple on mahogany body, flame maple neck through, and let's see, I have the Kiesel Holdsworth bridge pickup, a Kiesel lithium neck pickup, and the Kiesel lithium single coil in the middle. It's got a hip shot tremolo system, stainless steel frets, rosewood.
Talk about the hip shot tremolo system. How do you feed the strings? Is it through the back?
Actually,
how's it go?
It's right through the saddles.
Okay.
Is where you feed the strings, and obviously, as you can tell, no headstock. And some might be wondering about the nut. They used to have a 0 nut here, but they opted to go for a regular nut, and the reason why is because the 0 nut would start to get notches in the frets, and like you would bend down here and you go ping. But now this design that they have, that it remedied that problem, and but the guitar is fantastic. I mean, it plays itself. Wouldn't you agree, Rick? I mean,
it's an amazingly good. It's a really, and I rarely play new guitars. And I rarely play guitars. It's incredibly well balanced, and if it the neck is very, very, it's like butter to play on. It's really, really great, and you can tell it's incredibly well made. What's the scale length on it? Somebody just asked.
Yeah, it's 25.5 inch.
Yeah, and it really plays in tune well. All the way up, even when I was playing on the high E string, way, way high. So it's Kiesel. Is that how you spell it?
Oh, it's Kiesel.
Kiesel.
Yeah.
Is it Kiesel? Is that
it?
Yeah,
Kiesel.
Kiesel.
Yeah. And go to kiesel.com and check out their guitars.
Yeah, this is really, really a nice playing guitar. So.
And this is the Vader model. They've got a couple new models out. One is called the Zeus, and the other one Osiris, and they are bolt-on necks, but they're headless, and they have some wood back here on the butt of the guitar, but they've got it beveled out here so you can still tune the tremolo or the hardtail piece.
So Jari asked how to tune it.
Yeah, it's right back here. You have the tuners.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you pull through? So there's really no slack on the like you pull it as tight as you can, right? And then you start tuning it from there.
Well, what I do is I slip a little rubber grommet underneath the tremolo system.
Okay.
And then I'll undo the little Allen wrench screws right here and take the strings out. And whenever I string it back in, I'll pull it not as tight as I can, but just
pretty tight though.
Snug.
Yeah.
And then lock them all down.
Somebody said the volume's low here. Hold on, let me just turn it up. That should be better right there. Daryl's free course link working for anyone else hangs on app.convertkit.com for you.
Okay, let's see. Why don't we put this, we can give them a, hopefully I can pull this up.
Hold on.
I'm glad he's telling me that.
We'll get you. Ron asks, is the truss rod easy to get to? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's super easy. It's right here at the...
oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
That's actually a great spot for it.
And the neck has 2 carbon fiber rods, so it doesn't move at all.
Larry wants to know if the body's chambered.
No, and the reason why is, I mean, you can get your body chambered if you want, but I want to make sure, I like to have the strap button behind the neck, and, if the body is too light, the neck tends to do the neck dive thing, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any neck dive, so I didn't chamber the body. So...
Same issue. Somebody's saying, somebody mentioned something about the middle pickup. Does it get in the way of your picking?
No, it used to, but I've kind of trained myself to kind of pick between the neck pickup and the middle pickup, and you know, I make sure not to have my pick go so deep in the strings.
HKS, is it a Gibson type radius? Flatter. It's flatter than a Gibson, right?
The radius on the neck is a 20-inch.
Okay.
Rick, can you put in this URL for me?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure I can. What is it?
It's https://2
Yep.
and then darylgable.com/P as in pentatonic, another /.
Oh boy, Daryl, this is getting way too.
Almost.
Okay, P, yeah.
And then pentatonic dash or hyphen transformation and then /.
Did I do it right?
Let's see. Yeah, that looks right.
Wow, amazing. There you go. That's a flat radius. HK said it's very easy to play. It's
yeah, I do like a lot of legato stuff and
yeah, it's yeah. If
it's like 1 millimeter at the 12th fret.
Yeah, it's not the correct link. What? Well, we'll paste it in after. We'll paste it in a little bit. Couldn't find the page.
That figures.
Hold on. Well, we'll paste it in. You discovered Rick thanks to Daryl's newsletter. That's what. See, a lot of people. I met some people like Sinister Gates from you. I met.
This guy says it's working.
It's working. There you go. The URL gets a sign crashes after that. Well, try a different. Try Chrome or something. Erase the last. Oh, okay. There you go. Sustain. James wants to know. Does it have good sustain?
Oh yeah, man. It's this guitar is like it's my dream guitar.
And somebody asked about your amp rig.
Okay, well, my normal amp rig is at home as far as the whole thing, but what I'm playing through back here is Axifex XL Plus, and I love the Axifex. They just come out with the Axifex 3. I have the Axifex 2 XL Plus.
So when I got my Axifex, Daryl showed me how to use the interface with the computer with my laptop, and I mean honestly, it's almost impossible without that. It is impossible as far as I'm concerned without that. Most of the controls for it, right, Daryl? It's
easier to use with the interface.
Yeah.
But now the Axe 3, they've rectified that problem. They made it a lot easier to get deep into the unit, and they have a bigger display and so forth. But yeah, but I like using for the if you're going to use the Axe 2, I like using the software interface so you can have it on your big computer screen, and yeah.
A split switch for humbuckers, they're asking there.
Yep, I've got that right here.
Which is really handy to have. Rick and Daryl like The Walking Dead. That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty funny. Never tried one. Yeah, so for me, the Axifex was really, I haven't used it that much. It's very, I don't have, you have to basically spend time with it and get presets together. Daryl helped me with that basically by sending me a bunch of his presets, and then I adjusted them from there. He showed me how to adjust them. Total weight of the guitar, Stuart's asking.
I'm guessing about 6.5 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's about half the weight of my Les Paul. Active pickups? No, not active pickups, no. Okay, so we're going to talk about practicing here. Does anyone else have it not work? So take off the last slash, I think. And string gauge, Diego wants to know.
String gauge, I've got nines on
nines,
this
right
now. I have another Vader at home. It's got 10s. I've got 12s on my acoustic. So I play with the variety.
Rick, how do I use the discount codes for the Beato book you gave out from time to time? I just gave a discount code, RB789. How do you use it? When you buy it, you just put it in. It's on the, you know, it's on the page there somewhere. I mean, I never have people really saying it's hard to use. So, 6 pounds, Larry says. Larry's a great guitar player. How are you, Larry? RB789. Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate that. So we're going to talk about practicing here. I lost my pick, man. Hold on here. So Daryl and I were talking about practicing. I can't use that kind of pick. What do I do with my pick? I got my Dano here, which I haven't used in a long time.
Let me hold your guitar.
Daryl, why don't you fill for me while I'm talking? Talk, answer questions.
All right.
Hold on, let me get a pick.
Okay, guys.
Ask Daryl questions.
Well, I was going to tell them, as far as that pentatonic transformation course, use that link that Rick pasted in there, but just leave off the / at the end. Let's see, what can I talk about? In the pentatonic transformation course, I talk about just a different approach to playing pentatonics. And it's basically 3 notes per string as opposed to the traditional orthodox 2-note per string approach, which is great, but just to kind of, you know, break outside of the box, so to speak, playing, you know, 3 notes per string, like a, you know, like a, you know, something like that. Or let's see. You know, playing the pentatonic this way, you know, gets you more of a saxophone, keyboard-esque type of sound. Anyway.
I think our chat's frozen here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Can everybody hear me here? Wait a second. Hold on. Looks like our chat's frozen. Is your chat frozen, everybody?
I think they all left.
This is weird. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, well, I can't, for some reason the chat's frozen, everybody. Is everybody there still? This is weird. This never happened before.
Huh. What if you clicked on that top chat? Would that do anything? I don't know. Reload it or something?
Hang on. This is weird. I'm gonna have to stop the chat here. Hang on, everybody. We'll come right back. Let's see if it lets me rejoin the chat. Stream is continuing. Is anyone there? If anyone's there, type in the chat. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Hey, can anyone see here? Okay, this is really weird here. Oh. Okay. Wait a minute. We're back. We're back. Okay, there we go. You guys can see us now. I've never had that happen before. That was totally weird.
Looks like the aspect ratio changed too.
It did. You guys can see us better now too. You know what? I think it was the app that. I think the app had crashed or something that we were using there. You could all the way. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about the pentatonic thing, Daryl, that you were just talking about. Talk about your concept with it. Even though you're going to watch Daryl's free course here, but talk about the concept about how you practice your pentatonics like that, just with your basic, the basic fingering of the main position.
Okay, if we just talk about position 1, right? So it would be on the low E, you got A, C, D. And notice I'm using my ring finger here, right? A, C, D. On the A string, it's going to be D, E, G. Then on the D string, it's going to be G, A, C. And then on the G string, you have C, D, E. And then on the high E, E, G, A. And, excuse me, that's the B string. And then on the high E, you have E, C, D. You know, when I was younger and getting into playing guitar, you know, I was looking for things to kind of help me stand out as a guitarist. And, you know, one of my first idols, Rick, was Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Eddie would do things and you'd be listening to it and be like, how is he doing that? That's like impossible, right? And, you know, later I got into these shrapnel guitarists coming out of the record label Shrapnel from the 80s. And, you know, some of these guys you listen to and they would just be playing this impossible sounding stuff. And then later you'd find out, oh, you know, they're doing it this way or that way using, you know, unorthodox techniques to achieve these type of, you know, lines that you're hearing, these type of sounds and so forth. And so, you know, in my search and quest for, you know, these unorthodox approaches, I actually met this guitar player named Derek Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek, you know, I had been messing around with the pentatonic 3-note per string, but just doing it like on the high E, B, and G string, you know, stuff like, you know, stuff like that. Nothing, no huge deal. But Derek, he had showed me this thing. And it was a group of 5, and I was just totally blown away by that. And when he told me that was a group of 5, you know, this is back in like 1990, I think it was, you know, back in the caveman days. I'm like, okay, group of 5. So I got to figure out, like, you know, what would a group of 4 be? How about a, you know, group of 3, group of 6, group of 7, and so forth. And I also tried other approaches, you know, tried like, okay, well, he's just doing it. From what I remember, he was just doing maybe descending. But Derek, don't kill me if I have this wrong, because, I mean, this is so many years ago. But, I'm like, how would I do it? How would I do something ascending? And was also looking at playing it that way, and just different ways of playing the pentatonic, so it wouldn't sound like the same thing you would hear all the time, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but just for a different approach. But anyhow, so that's kind of how I got into it, and so I've been doing this, using this type of pentatonic approach for these type of lines, as it were, for 20 something years, 25 years or so.
Daryl, some people say, what do they do if people don't have hands that are able to make these kind of stretches? Not a lot of people can make these kind of stretches like that. So what do they do?
Okay, well, okay, you're making a good point. Now, don't underestimate yourself. That's number one. And number two, look at the scale length on the guitar. Okay, down here it's what? Wider. But up here, okay, it's a smaller scale length, right? So, if you start out playing things, down here, because it's easier for you to reach, I mean, do it. And then as you get better, slowly, or as your hand starts to stretch out your tendons and ligaments, then you can move it further down the neck. I would also, do things like this, and I would put this hand in between these two fingers, and I would kind of push back gently. You don't want to hurt yourself, and stretch your tendons and ligaments out. And that's something that early on I realized, hey, I've got big hands, and I should take advantage of that. And
Well, one of the things that about Van Halen and him doing those kind of stretches is that his idol was Eddie Van Halen, or was Alan Holdsworth.
Alan Holdsworth, yeah.
Yeah.
Because later I got into Alan Holdsworth, and he was doing similar type of things, and so, and Frank Gambale,
Although Frank doesn't do super wide stretches like that. Usually.
Well, he'll do, actually Frank, I'll do this thing, this 3-1-3 thing, this type of, that's where I'm playing 3 notes on the low E, 1 on the A, 3 on the D, 3 on the G, 1 on the B, and 3 on the high E. And I kind of got that from Frank in a way. I mean, Frank in his...
He does all odd number notes on the strings so that he can sweep.
Right, but
or a lot of times he breaks the scales like 3-1, 3-1, 3-1 like that.
Yeah, but he was doing in his Monster Licks video, he was doing like 2 notes, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, like that. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool, but how can I get more range? I'm a young kid, and I want to traverse the scale of the neck, and lightning speed, and so anyway, so I when I learned that from Frank via his video, I started doing it like 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, and then my good friend Derek Taylor, he's like, how about doing 3-1-3, 3-1-3? I'm like, that's brilliant. I'm gonna use that.
So one of the things, Daryl, that people keep talking about is warming up and things like that. And I mean, you can really improve the stretch of your hands. I mean, I don't have super big hands, but I have a very wide stretch. And a lot of it comes from actual having strength in your fingers, If you play, there's a 4-fret stretch there just with these 2 fingers. And you should be able to do that comfortably if you practice enough and you develop the strength to be able to hold those fingers apart. And the thing that Daryl said about being able to do that, if you do it too much in any one time, you're going to have you can get tendonitis and things like that, but you just have to practice this stuff over long periods of time, basically. But this is really a hand strength thing. When I started playing, I started on the cello. In the cello, when you play in half position, you actually point, and they teach you to do that. So I naturally would do that, so that these kind of stretches were natural to me because cello uses a position like that. So, so those are things. A lot of this stuff, L. Harrison just wrote here, elbow location, wrist mobility, and avoiding tendonitis. That's true. Making sure that your thumb's in the back of the neck obviously is important. I mean, you don't want to get tendonitis, trust me. I have tendonitis in this hand. That's what's going on with that. That's why I've had a problem playing lately. But with this stuff, don't overdo it if you're doing a lot of stretches. But a lot of it is more hand. I think it's hand strength is a big part of it too. Fingers, just from it's not just being able to stretch. The stretches come from having your hand, from actually strengthening your hand.
But I don't want people to think you have to have Hercules hands.
No, you don't. No. Brett says, how about if you have 2 hours of practice? What would you practice and for how long? Okay, this is really kind of the thing that we're going to talk about today. So, Daryl and I kind of we have different practice routines. I don't have as much, I don't practice that often because I don't have time because I'm always making videos here. But typically, Daryl, talk about how you practice. Okay. How you organize your practice schedule or practicing.
Well, when students ask me about practicing, what should they be practicing, I usually tell them, there's 4, maybe 5 categories. One would be, say, mechanics, technique, you're working on your picking chops or, your legato chops. The other would be fretboard knowledge, learning your instrument, learning where the notes are on the neck, learning your arpeggio scales, intervals, triads, chords. The third thing would be transcribing, learning, with transcribing, you're developing a vocabulary because, you were taking your favorite songs and your solos, figuring them out, and that's sharpening your ear. And after all, what are we doing? This music is a hearing art.
That's right.
So you want your ear as sharp as possible.
If your practice schedule or your practice sessions don't have any transcribing in them, you're probably not improving you're not improving your vocabulary, because the only time that most of the time people just will rely on playing the same things over and over. I always have this saying, don't practice what you know, practice what you don't know. And I think I heard that from someone else. But that's kind of always been a philosophy of mine, is always work on things that are new. It's kind of like trying not to play the same stuff all the time. I mean, it's you don't want to practice the same stuff all the time.
Well, I'd say the fourth thing would be improvising, reacting to music, putting on a backing track, improvising solos, melodies, chord comping. Then the fifth thing would be composition, right? And that doesn't mean like composing a whole song. I mean, it can mean that, but it could mean, composing an idea. Right? You might compose an idea that's some type of single line idea, like. You're like, okay, I've got a little concept, that I can work on with my, and work it into my improvising. And it could be, coming up with, composing a chord progression, or composing a tune. So creating. So that would be the 5 areas.
I think that, it's always good to to start out with a warm-up. I mean, no question about that. That's I think that's the first thing, especially as you get older. It's really important to warm up, and it's really important to warm down. Okay, warming down is to practice slowly at the end of your practice session. That will negate, I think, a lot of injuries. I haven't had a lot of injuries in my left hand, luckily. I'm not sure why I've had these injuries in my right hand, but I'm pretty sure it's from using the mouse. But I, will practice technique, and for myself, I'll practice things, scales, arpeggios, like that, different interval combinations. But I always try to make things up. When I'm practicing, I try to practice over, or when I'm warming up, I try to practice over chord progressions. So we were talking before this about Stella by Starlight. And so if I'm going to think about playing on Stella by Starlight, I'm going to say, okay, well, let me think about what I'm going to play. So if you start out with the first chord, E minor 7 flat 5. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start out and play maybe minor add 9 arpeggios. So I would start on G minor add 9. So if you play E minor 7 flat 5. So that would be G minor add 9 arpeggio. So I might go. And then on A7 altered, I might take this and move up a minor third. So I've just done 2 different minor 9 arpeggios. So maybe I'll only take the first 2 chords of that and go. And then. And I'll practice those. I'll do it here too. I'll practice down here. And I'll do here. Now it's hard because I'm holding the guitar not like I would hold it. I'm trying to hold it up here so you guys can see it, but. And then move on to the next set of 2 chords, okay? And I go C minor 7 to F7 and maybe put something, do something different on that. And I go to C minor add 9. And then on F7, I might go F7 altered. That would be like F7 flat, dominant 7 flat 9 sus 4. Okay, then on F minor 9 or F minor 7, I'm going to play F minor add 9, and I play through the entire progression by using minor add 9 chords or something like that. And if you go to B flat 13, you can still use F minor add 9. Okay, and then on E flat major 7, you say, okay, well, I have this. You have G minor add 9. So, and then on A flat 13, you have. So I'm doing this. I'm taking this chord. You can see where these chords are here. So this is E flat minor. I'm doing E flat minor add 9. So first chord G minor add 9. Second chord B flat minor add 9. Third chord C minor add 9. Fourth chord E flat minor add 9 over the F7 gives you an F7 sus 4 flat 9. F minor add 9 over F minor 7. F minor add 9 over B flat 13. And then G minor add 9 over E flat major 7, and then E flat minor add 9 over A flat 7. Okay, so I took a minor add 9 arpeggio and I played it over the first 8 chords of Stella by Starlight there. Just so that would be a conceptual thing that I would practice to get my brain thinking. And then you try to do, Daryl and I were talking about this too, limit yourself. This is really an important thing. Talk about that for a minute, Daryl. Limit yourself in an area, for example.
Right. Like what I was telling Rick was that, I'll, with chord comping and, single line playing, I'll break the guitar down into increments, like let's say 7 parts, for example, and for like, as far as single line playing. And I'll say, okay, limit yourself to, a 4 or 5, like about a 5 or 6 actually, fret span. And then as you travel up the neck, so you got like 7 positions before they repeat over again. But practice in those positions. And then you might, and that's, for horizontal playing. And then for linear playing, you might break it up into like, 1 string, practicing on 1 string, practicing on 2 strings, 3 strings, and so forth. But yeah, it's all about that limitation exercise. Really goes a long way.
Does Carvin still sell equipment? Does Carvin still sell? Yeah, Carvin's still in business, right?
Well, what happened was when Kiesel came about, as it were, the company split. So Kiesel would handle the instrument side of things, their guitars and basses, and Carvin was handling the pro audio and amplifiers, but unfortunately they went out of business. But Kiesel's doing strong. They're doing great.
HKS, do you use looper pedals, Daryl?
There's a looper in my Axe-Fx.
Loopers are good for practicing by yourself. They can be good for playing gigs, things like that. But I had on here on one of my live streams a freeze pedal. I know we were talking about that. If that thing does that, we'll freeze a chord. You hear Kurt Rosenwinkel uses that a lot. And those are good if you're playing by yourself to those are good to have an accompaniment when you don't have one, so you don't have to play with if you don't have a backing track to play with or something. Rick says, what do you think about tuning the guitar 3/4 to reduce practice time for the amateur musician? Holzer said if you were to relearn the guitar, he would do that.
There's pros and cons to it. I've thought about it, and there's people obviously that have done it and they're successful with it. Tom Quayle is a incredible player, amazing player. He uses that tuning as well as Alex Hutchings, who's an awesome player as well.
Stanley Jordan too.
Yep, Stanley Jordan. But
you can't, the only problem with tuning in fourths, the tuning in fourths makes a guitar symmetrical, so it makes fingerings of scales, arpeggios, things like that really easy and more like guitar. But the other thing, the thing is that you can't play a lot of chords. It makes some chords really difficult to play.
Also, if you're going to be teaching too, it's most people are tuned in standard tuning, and when you've got your guitar set up in force tuning, it can be kind of awkward somewhat. But Tom Quayle has seemed to he knows how to work around that. But
how do you work on phrasing and letting music breathe versus playing 1,000 notes?
Well, you got to be conscious of it first.
Yeah. Practicing ideas, taking motifs and developing them. I mean, that's really the key to that. Can I explain a sus arpeggio? A sus arpeggio is basically, instead of playing a major triad, right? Or that would be A major, and I just suspend the fourth. So I play A, D instead of A, C sharp, E, A. So that's it. You do sus2 also. You can do, or sus4 here. They're hard to play on the guitar. That's the one thing about those, unless there's unless, I don't know. Daryl, what about fingerings for sus arpeggios?
Let's see. Well, with that pentatonic thing, you can.
Without repeating notes, though.
Well, I'm saying, if you did something like this.
If you're just to do 1 4 5.
Right. So or 1 4 5.
Yeah.
I might do like for a sus2, that comes to mind. You could,
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, suspended chords arpeggios are really difficult on
You could do stuff like let's see, what do I do?
The problem with when you're playing these suspended arpeggios is that you want to try to, for me, let me see here if I can get in here. It's hard to, this is confusing here. Okay. Is to try not to bar things if you don't have to. So let's say I'm playing. So if I'm doing like a E sus4 chord, right? So that's the fingering I would use. So right there, just try not to bar any. Although some people, like Frank Gambale, can have no problem barring. They can bar. He's got really thick fingers, and it's very easy for him to bar. But for me personally, it's hard to bar, and so I always use one finger per string. Except even here, I'm doing it. So I'm going here. So I go 3 4 1 2 3 1 4. Hard to do. It's hard to practice. But it's a cool sound. Anyways. Oh, man. Okay, this is a Troll Central today for some reason. Whoa. What's a good minor 11 shape to use that doesn't sound too crowded? There you go. Should beginners practice chords first or scale? Probably chords first, because it's really important to be able to play chords well. Trolls will get boomed. You're right, Renzo. They have gotten boomed. I've banned about 10 people already. I'm not even paying attention to it, though. Anyways, what else? Steve, what's the Steve Vai 24-hour workout? Is that something? What is that?
I've heard of that. I think he had.
I've seen somebody's paste, unless somebody keeps pasting the same thing in here. The band hammer. There you go. Cool. Well, I think this is good. So, what are my thoughts on classical guitar? I think we're good for right now. I'm trying not to go over an hour. We're at 53 minutes here because people don't watch if you have an hour-long live stream. So, check out Daryl's channel. I'm going to post it here in the description again. Get on his free course, pentatonic course, that we will put the link up properly in a second. And $10 off in the Beato book until midnight tonight. RB789. Also, tonight on my second channel, Rick Beato Live, Daryl and I will be on 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Boom. We'll see you there. Hold on. There we go. All right, see you guys.